Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Do you know how long I've wanted to interview you?
2 years.
More than that.
I'm kidding.
No, much more than that.
Right.
I mean, I remember suggesting you to Marcus and the Wizard.
Oh, sure, right.
Almost 4 years ago. And,
Wow.
and I remember we had it set up one time, but Marcus had gone to Vegas and got deathly ill.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And literally, like, we were banging on his door in the morning and he was out cold because he had taken some kind of sleep medicine or something. And I remember we got a message from Melanie saying, guess what? Marcus is not going to be able to do that today. Please tell your brother I'm so sorry and all that. And I remember, man, I was like, damn, man, because your schedule is as crazy or crazier than mine is.
Pretty much. No, I got it. I remember that very well.
And then it's almost become one of these things where it's like, all right, next Christmas, next Thanksgiving, next holiday. I swear we'll cut the time. And just for James's show, like I pinned James down, and that was a miracle in and of itself.
True.
Yeah. But thank you so much.
Oh, I'm honored and thrilled and have wanted to do it for 4 years as well.
It means the world to me. It
Oh,
really
listen,
does.
I'm such a fan of what you're doing.
Yeah.
That to even be a part of kind of the stories that you're telling is just I'm thrilled and grateful, so I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Besides being my brother.
Besides being your brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure everybody has the expectation of all right, he's going to jump right into it. There they were, 1974, 1976, right? In the new house at 880, but I'm not going there right off.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're going to pump the brakes a little.
I'm
right?
going to pump the brakes, and I'm going to I want to go to a space because as you know, my big thing now with T&Q, it was really about that defining moment.
Sure.
Right? That pinnacle moment in a person's life where something really courageous happens to them. That deeper rooted perspective of purpose, their ability to embrace fear gets them, and they're able to do this amazing thing. But the one thing I realized on doing 124 interviews at that level, and with those people that had insane stories as you do, was that it wasn't a one-time thing. It was continuously over and over and over again. And for me, as your life, much like mine and everybody else, are broken up into these sections for sure. So the section I want to go to, where I believe there was this massive shift where you were like, you know what? I'm going to go after my dream, and I'm going to really pursue it with vigor and relentlessness. And that's when you stopped doing the event planning. You went to work for the Hollywood Reporter. You started doing events for them. But then you realized you had all this complete other talent behind it, which was to promote the event through social media, which was to bring people together and to highlight their profiles. And you saw this, you were able to, because I remember, and I know I'm being long-winded for everybody, and everybody's like, shut up and ask a question, but this happens to me.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, literally. And I'm going to set you free here in a second. But like when you did the Atlantis opening in the Bahamas, and you told me, or no, it was the Middle East, right? Was it the Bahama? It's the Bahama one. Both, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Middle East one, there was you trained 2,800 people, right? Mm-hmm. 2,800 people that were going to service the party, the opening, all that. You trained. I remember saying to myself, my God, he's a master at what he does. But there was more to the party, I always heard. There was always about the experience, the making people feel what the party was about. And so you had this greater depth to you. You go to Hollywood Reporter, you get there, and all of a sudden, Mr. Rutherford is born.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What was it about that moment in time that said, you know what? I am going to pursue my dream of becoming this world famous male model, of becoming this personality, of becoming this activist, of becoming this person that is really about instilling that greater ability to see in the future what you could become. Why then?
I love and appreciate you kind of setting it up that way. I wish it was as clear as that, because it was not. I mean, in fact, that was not, I certainly didn't have that awareness, or that level of clarity, to that there were steps that I was going to take. And,
wow.
So if you don't mind, like let me take a step back. Mm-hmm. Again, thank you for saying that. They're very nice and kind things that you were saying. I wasn't as sure-footed then, so for me, just the pivot into events was something that I had fallen into, and something that it was like a duck to water. I've always loved people. I've always loved,
right.
Working with people and learning about people and understanding people, similar to you. And so for me, when I had stepped into events, again, that was many years ago, I loved also too, is very different than what I had been doing before, in the sense of when I was acting and modeling, when I was a kid and into my 20s, to step into doing events, you literally were doing something on the ground, so to speak.
Right.
And I did everything from, I was a PA, I was a grunt. And I started from the bottom, which is, again, to me, it's always some of the greatest experiences you can have, because you are learning.
Is PA production assistant?
PA production assistant, yeah. So I did everything from understanding how to run cable, to working with a florist, to how to rig something, to really overall is like creating an experience.
And what you guys need to understand is that we're not just talking like a local bar mitzvah.
No.
we're talking Oprah Winfrey's
Yes.
100 most powerful women of the year event.
Yeah, the Legends Ball.
Yeah, the Legends Ball.
So yeah, I mean, literally, like, again, I was very grateful for the experience, because it was something at the time when I started doing it, it was in between jobs. So it wasn't a true, we'll say, career. Mm-hmm. And again, it was great, because for me with an event, there was always a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
almost like a 3-act play.
Completely.
Wow.
Completely. Wow. Yeah. Again, sometimes you had a beginning and a middle and end that took place in a few hours. Sometimes talking about things that I did, whether it was a huge Hollywood premiere, or working with Oprah, or opening the hotel in the Middle East.
Yeah.
It was, you'd be there for weeks, even just on the way over here, just because of the timing of the year. Right now, you and I were talking about going to Super Bowl again this year. And for 5-6 years, I worked on Super Bowls.
I just want to tell you, I'm so sorry for the Super Bowl party in San Diego.
Oh,
and I have told that a little bit
my God.
in the past. And I was ripe with some post-war experiences, and I embarrassed you, and I'm so sorry for that.
So the funny thing is, like, I'd forgotten about it until you just brought it up. I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah. So again, you have these
the
experiences,
magnitude of what you were doing.
And it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people, let alone the money that goes into it. Anyway, so you have these. What I loved about it was you could achieve something, and hundreds of people coming together,
right,
to create an experience. And I loved that. I loved. You're in a parking lot, you're in a dirt lot, you're in something, you're in something, and then you are creating something and building something. And so to me, and you're coming together and working with teams,
right.
And sometimes you have the elements that don't work for you, whether it's rain or snowstorm or whatever it was. And, because whether it was, again, working on a Super Bowl, in San Diego, we literally created a village on a dirt lot. And then created, and the thing that I loved is yes, people were spending money, and it's the NFL, and there are some, we'll say, wealthy people, but what I was working on was this NFL experience.
Yeah.
That was predominantly what I was doing, and it was something for families to do, and something for the local communities to participate in, and that's one of the things that I loved about it. And so doing events allowed me to, do something that was very tangible, whereas with what I was doing before, whether it's creative or acting or modeling something, it's, yes, you're doing a job, but it's just a different way. You're showing up, you're participating. So for me to do events, to kind of wrap around where you're going, like, how did I get to the Hollywood Reporter? So I was doing all these events and doing around the world, and, participating with Oprah Winfrey and Nelson Mandela or whomever it might be, it's things that you do and that help shape you, what you're referring to is I realized what I was doing. There was value in what I was doing. Cause again, some people are like, you're a party planner, what are you giving back?
Yeah.
When we were in South Africa and I was helping Oprah open her school for girls.
That was the moment for me where I was like, holy shit, Eric, that's massive.
That was, besides again, it being Oprah Winfrey and what she's done with her life and the influence that she has. And some people like her and some people don't, but
it's undeniable though. Whatever side you're on, it's
whatever
undeniable.
Side, she has made change. She's caused change
Massive.
and caused in many, many, millions of people. And so to be a part of that, what she was doing and where it affected me in many different levels is, you're there and you're in a country that has a history of apartheid. So I'm this white guy coming over. And so I'm part of the events team, one of the leaders there. And one of the things that I had to do was, because of this series of events that we were doing, whether it was, this huge lunch or celebration dinner or New Year's Eve or whatever it might be. And, everyone wants to rise up to the occasion. Yeah. And that's not the skill set that the majority of the people I was working with were men, we'll say. And with this one versus the Middle East, what you brought up is, there were a couple hundred men and I was there to help kind of elevate their skill set.
Right.
And, what I was told, and I was very respectful of any situation that I ever went in, whether it was in the US or around the world or whatever it is.
You understand oppression for sure.
For sure. And going in, you want to be respectful of the people that are there or how I always looked at it is I'm not going in there to tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm going into there to tell you what you're doing right and how you can actually be better at what you're doing.
Yeah, man.
It's because that to me has always worked. You're going to get more response from people when you're kind of lifting them up as opposed to pushing them down,
which we have a natural tendency to do.
Which is crazy. Again, you think of the scope of it, you're going into a place where just the history of apartheid.
Yeah.
So my thing going in is, all right, how can I lift them up? Again, me looking the way that I am, I'm an American, I'm a white guy, I'm coming in, I'm an older man, so to speak. I was in my 30s. And coming in and I'm working with people that I'm in your house.
Yeah.
But I'm coming to because I want to be helpful.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was, we trained for 8 hours a day, to be better, to do better, to have an understanding. I taught them skills that they didn't have. And so that kind of culminated in this New Year's Eve, and you had everyone from, again, Oprah Winfrey, Mary J. Blige, and again, I forget the range of people that were there, and and they all stood up and cheered and applauded these men for what they had done.
In essence, applauding you as well.
Listen, I helped. I was there. I led them to get to the right word because ultimately, and I've always said this to anybody that I've ever worked with in this capacity, we can train, we can meet, we can plot, we can put everything together, Ultimately, though, you're the one that has to make it happen.
For sure.
I can lead you there, but ultimately I'm letting you go to do what you need to do.
You have to perform.
You have to do it. And, and I always would, and so it's me, it's instilling, in them the confidence, instilling them, you're rising up to do this. And, you can have all these managers, whomever, everyone that's put this together, but you're the one. And they were the ones that did it, and they did it beautifully. Wow. And what ended up happening was, they, after it all was said and done, they got applause. And again, it wasn't, but they knew they had done the job well.
Yeah.
Many of them broke down into tears.
I'm sure.
Because, and again, this is where a pivot for me started to happen is, you experience people and you hopefully you can have some kind of exchange. Mm-hmm. And with this, I was able to give them something that was tangible. Right. That besides even just feeling accomplished or good about themselves, by giving them new skills, it'll actually allow them to get better jobs. It allowed
Everything.
them to earn more money.
Everything.
It then influenced what they could do for their families, to do for their villages, So that's why they were crying, because I had given them something that could affect them then for the rest, and not just them, a skill set. So we were having these moments, and again, these grown men, and some were, 20 years older than I was, or whatever it is, and
were you? I don't mean to cut you
no,
off.
please cut me off.
But there's also it's funny. There's some great ironies in Africa, right? And one of the ironies is, in this South Africa, the land of apartheid, complete and utter modern day slavery, if you will. There's also a high homophobia that exists within the local populace.
Sure.
Right? Culturally, it's built in. Were you nervous about that at all?
Listen, in my travels, I sometimes I'm nervous in the U.S. So it's,
I bet. Right. Yeah.
So, it's something that is, always a part of my life, but it's not something that I always think of, so to speak, because I'm just me.
Yeah.
Yes, we were prepped, before we went over, as part of the team, and I was going over to do a job. So I'm taking myself there, and I certainly wasn't the only person that was over there. But yes, you were conscious. And again, there was more concern for our safety, not necessarily because of how I identify, but just as Americans at the time, and being white, so to speak. That was probably more than me being gay. You know, which again, you as someone who's literally traveled all over the world,
freaking out in places.
So but again, it's I have to say, it's one thing, from your experience, that I have raised my level of awareness, and again, always trying to push forward a level of awareness just as a person, as a human, right? But you go into these different parts of the countries. Again, now fast forward to being in the Middle East, that's an element of as well. But it's also, do you want to be respectful of cultures that you are entering into?
Huge.
And you want to, you're there to do a job and to, we'll say, assimilate, in the sense of we've been brought over to do this job and to do it well.
In their country, in their subculture.
For sure. So it's, you do things with respect. You do things with a consideration. You kind of, expand your awareness. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you're there to achieve something.
Yeah.
So again, you try to mix all that together and still do what you need to do and do it well. And hopefully you have an effect. And it was interesting being in the Middle East, and, we were working directly with the royal family.
Yeah.
And that is where I did have, it was like 2,800 people. And again, it was me and a team. I don't want to kind of give off that it was only me.
No, I'm your brother.
I appreciate it. No, and again, but I was leading this team, and you work with the people that you have, the whole thing. And again, having an understanding of what you're showing up with and what you're also showing up to.
Yeah.
So
that's massive.
It was massive. Again, it's also too, I'm fascinated by other cultures, and I'm fascinated by people who look at the world differently than I do. Yeah. So it's because I think I've always believed this, we can learn from each other, and hopefully you can take that in and grow and expand, and also gain a better sense of self.
Amen. That's exactly it. All right. So just to kind of go back to this pivot point for you. So now you've really mastered all of these skill sets within this particular experience that you're giving people, right? And in a narrative, in a theatrical conceptual idea, right? That's what you're providing, right? And now all of a sudden you're in this moment where it's like, whoa, I can take all of this and go down this very specific route towards becoming Mr. Rutherford.
Again, you're so wonderful to look at it that way. It's not how I was looking at it. Wow. I wish I had that clarity.
Yeah.
For me, and again, I'll wrap it back around, is again, it runs in the family, kind of stories expand. So basically what ended up happening to get to that,
for the long form interview.
Hello, right? What ended up happening was I had all these experiences and was doing events around the world, and again, making great money. And, owned a house, and I was in a great relationship, and blah, blah, the whole thing. And I built this reputation doing this, and so what ended up happening was, while I was doing these events kind of around the world, social media began to expand, unfold, become influential, used as a marketing tool, kind of all of these things. And so a lot of these agencies began to focus on, using social media as a branding tool and how to communicate with people and marketing and the whole thing. And so that was happening concurrently while I was doing this. And then, the Hollywood Reporter reached out to me because they had just done a rebrand. And for those of you who don't know what the Hollywood Reporter is, it has been a trade magazine in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That was a daily trade magazine for years.
Long time, right?
Long time. As well as Daily Variety. And so what ended up happening is they did a rebrand. Someone came in and they rebooted and it became this very glossy, beautiful magazine that came out weekly. And while they were doing it, they then started working with different luxury brands and the whole thing. And they started doing events and the whole thing. And they're expanding so quickly, they needed help. And I had already been doing kind of branded material, marketing campaigns and things like that.
Who was that one? Foursquare was the name of the
A Square Group.
A Square.
That was the first, and that was the biggest. With that was the first kind of major campaign, social media marketing campaign that I did with the Gap. So I did this.
I remember that, yeah.
So I ended up, the biggest thing was we ended up doing 100 events in 10 different cities in 3 months.
Those pop-up stores.
With this one, what we did is we went to, we'll say, cool boutique hotels.
Yeah.
And we rented the penthouse. And then we, at that time, we didn't call it this, but we did these influencer kind of cocktail parties where we had kind of influential people. At that time, it was focused on women. And we hosted these events. We invited people in, and for that was for denim.
Yeah.
But from that, you go, then again, it was me being with people and it was experiencing people. And that's what's always kind of got me excited about it is, again, meeting different people and having these experiences. So I was doing that, did everything from Gap to Levi's to Gucci to whatever. And so I had this experience working social media. But that is why I got on social media, not to become this caricature, this person, Mr. Rutherford.
Well,
it was literally, so it's like, you know what? I better know what I'm doing when I'm talking to a client.
What's amazing is what happened though. I mean, it's absolutely one of the most remarkable things that I've seen. And obviously I've been on social media for probably as long and in different contexts and different ways, but man, it was pretty remarkable to me that, all of a sudden, I was immersed in this whole concept of, that you were, becoming kind of this face for marketing in Hollywood and this periodical that was giving people a new perspective online, right? And that's what really social media was doing.
Sure.
It was giving us a new perspective, right? A perspective that was, more tolerable, was more enjoyable, it was more rapid, right? And all of these things. But now all of a sudden, you start moving into this space where, all of a sudden I'm seeing, I'm trying to find an amazing one that just completely, where these whole different things where you're in these, you're like this was always one of my favorite, you're showing up at the Tony Awards, you're dressed to the nines, you're all of a sudden.
That was a partnership with Nordstrom.
Right. And you like here, this, I always show this to the friends who are like, your brother's so good looking. And I said, well, look at this one, and you start to see these things where all of a sudden now you're the brand.
So
what's that like?
Well, what ended up happening was, again, it was a series of things just like life, right? Mm-hmm. Again, I wish I had that clarity.
Yeah.
Then. So I was at the Hollywood Reporter, and again, loving what I was doing because I have always been a fan of Hollywood and movie making and the actors and the directors and everybody that goes into making a film. Yeah. And again, it's a team effort. And then being at the Hollywood Reporter, you had some of the greatest photographers, writers. Again, it was a high for me. It was a great moment for me. But what had started to occur for me is like I was showing up to do a job.
Mm-hmm.
I had lost kind of any of the joy, the discovery. It was me. It was becoming. There was no creativity. It was me checking boxes.
Yeah.
To get a job done. Again, I still showed up and did my best, and I've always prided myself on that. But there was something again. I didn't want to be the guy that, and I was already into my mid 40s when this was happening. I didn't want to be the guy that looked back and said, I wish I had.
Yeah. Huge.
And while at the Hollywood Reporter, I again had created this presence online. And
let me ask you real quick. I just
Sure.
want to interject because it's in that pivotal moment of making a decision. Were you in a midlife crisis at all?
No, it wasn't necessarily a crisis that had happened.
That's the wrong word.
No, I know what you're saying.
A midlife shift.
Yeah.
Man. I felt it in my 40s. I mean, I know all my friends. Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, let's just say, again, I owned a beautiful home. I had a fantastic job. I had a great reputation. I was in a wonderful relationship. I had a lot of great things, we'll say on the outside and as well as on the inside. But for me, again, I felt there was something lacking, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Wasn't quite sure. But there was just something more. And again,
was it a big void? Was it a little void? Was it a void?
Looking back, it was a big void.
Okay.
Then we'll say it was an element. It was something that I was aware of.
Okay.
And
daily?
Yeah, daily. Well, and again, not necessarily because I was still showing up to work. I was still showing up to my relationships. I was still doing, all those things.
Yeah.
I was still doing well. But there was something, again, listen, I believe every day you wake up and you set intention for the day and you can shift how you look at the day in the blink of an eye,
absolutely.
And
we're capable of that.
100%. And I've always felt that way. And sometimes some days are easier than others for sure. And again, for me, what ended up happening was I had brands starting to reach out to me. Not just to hire me to produce the event, but to host the event.
Yeah.
So there was a slow shift on how I was perceived in the industry, and not necessarily Hollywood, but just we'll say in this space, in this. Now, as we look back on it, it's this influencer space.
Right. The beginnings.
The beginning.
Yeah.
And what I represented. I was older.
Yep.
I carried myself a certain way compared to someone else, maybe in their 20s. The kind of the big, again, it wasn't necessarily stuff that I was doing or consciously doing, but I had salt and pepper colored hair.
Yeah.
And I had someone walk up to me in Hollywood, but again, very Hollywood kind of
statement.
They said, "Oh my God, you're trending right now." And I was like, "What the hell's that?"
Yeah, what's trending?
I was like, "I'm trending. Does that mean I'm going to be over in a matter of a second, in a few minutes?" And they said, "Listen, at that moment, older men, we'll say, and with my colored hair, were being recognized as, attractive, or they weren't necessarily dead with gray hair.
Right.
Or,
the silver fox.
The silver fox. It was a whole moment. Yeah. And so that happened. So I was getting more brands were reaching out to me. That person that said that to me then had said, well, we want to bring you in for this thing for Cadillac. I was like, no, that's my thing. And then after I turned her down, all of a sudden I went, well, wait a second. If I'm saying there's something missing in my life, doesn't that mean that I need to be open to new things coming to me to help change that?
Were you nervous about being in front of a camera like that? I mean, because there's nothing that makes an individual more self-conscious than to be on the other side of a professional photographer. People are investing significant amounts of money into you representing their brand. And, and trust me, there's plenty of people in the world that are like, what, are you fucking kidding me? These models and all this bull and this. And what I say to them is try it. Just go
100%.
Spend one day, 1 9-10 hour day, having person tell you to move your arm 2 inches, move your head 2 inches, do this. All right, make sure the clothes. And then And listen, I come from a very arduous background.
Sure.
And I come from that one as well
Sure.
too. So I can tell you it's not easy to do at all. And it's certainly not easy to do it with distinction, where you separate yourself from everybody else.
Well, thank you. I think going off that, again, you and I both have this experience of where we were in front of the camera. And so you do learn certain things. And listen, also too, I thank our mom and dad every day. Like, I look the way that I look because of them. And the only thing is I do is I maintain it. I try to do it as well as I can. But again, and I've always been conscious of that. I'm no better than or better looking than anybody else, but I know who I am, and I know what I am, and I know what I look like when a camera takes a picture. Mm-hmm. I have to say I've also been able to hide behind the way that I look for many years. Know many people, because also it's very quick and easy for me to smile.
Yeah. What are you hiding from?
Listen, many times it was self-loathing, loss, depression, thinking that you're a piece of shit, that your story, that your life doesn't really matter. I mean, again, not getting off track, but again, so I was always aware that I looked the way that I looked, and that I could use that. And so when this started happening, again, it was easy. I won't say it was easy as riding a bike, but it was something that, and it happened rather quickly, where I went from being behind the camera for many, many, many years to all of a sudden I was being asked to step back out in front. Now, again, this was part of a pivot that was happening, and I've always been a believer in.
And what years was this?
Oh gosh, at this point, this was maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago when it started, but about 5 years ago.
Yeah, 12, 13. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, when I was a kid?
No.
Oh.
2012.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So it was
probably before that. Right?
Earlier. No, I mean later, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so much of it is marked too. So it's
all time stamped.
right, and it's all like I gotta just Google it. So again, it was a series of things. Again, it was at the Hollywood Reporter. Brand started reaching out to me. I had this kind of epiphany or awakening that something was lacking in my life. So in about a year, and again, I believe in a higher power. I believe God, however you want to reference it, whatever it is. I believe, you get tapped on the shoulder, you get your attention signs show up. However you want to look at it. Things were happening. Mm-hmm. And this one woman approaching me and saying this thing about training and Cadillac. And again, me all of a sudden going, you know what, just do it. Just show up. I didn't get the job, but she ended up talking to an old agent of mine. So then they said, why don't you come in and talk to us? I was still at the Hollywood Reporter. Yeah. I didn't tell anybody I went and did this.
Yeah.
So I was not interested, because also too, I left the industry because I had ended up the negative that comes from the industry in the sense of self-doubt about yourself, the value you have, your self-worth.
Why is that so layered into it, man?
Listen,
is it the rejection that you go up against and that you don't rate, or?
Well, you have to think. So you could be the most talented person in the room and still not get the job.
Yeah.
And the way you and I were raised by our wonderful mother and father is a great work ethic.
Yeah.
You work hard and you find success. You achieve a level of success and you keep working, you show up and you work and expand and more and more. And in that industry, you could be, again, the best looking, the most talented. You could be perfect for the job they're looking for and you still not get the job.
Yeah.
So at a certain...
Is that because of nepotism? Is it because of what producers see differently or directors or...
Listen, it took me years to get to the point. And again, having friends that were casting directors and producers and the whole thing. Yeah. But it's like any job. You could have the qualifications, but there's more than just you
involved.
And
that's a critical thing that we all have to
Any job you show up to, it's, you may have an amazing resume. You may have incredible work experience. Your personality might not be right for the team that you're, and as well as about, building a team.
Well, we see this all the time in our world, right?
Sure.
Veterans get out of the military. They're in this transitional phase and they show up and their resume looks like the greatest thing since white sliced bread.
Yep.
And then they get in, first day on the job, they look over at the person who's across from them, who's on their team or whatever, and they're like, "What are you doing, you freaking knucklehead? That's unsatisfactory." They blade hand them, and HR's like, "What just happened?" There's a complaint. Next thing you know, they're in the office, and the guy's going, "Why did you call that person an asshole to their face?" "Well, what do you mean? I didn't."
Yeah. But that's just it. That's
right.
You can show up to a job. Again, you're all prepared. You're perfect. I mean, listen, there at a certain point, and again, it's when you're choosing to be in that industry, again, any industry, you're making choices, right?
Yeah.
You're taking responsibility for those choices. We got into the industry because of our mom. She wanted us to be well-rounded, which again, I'm forever grateful for that. But what you have to learn eventually, and it takes a while to learn, and some people never learn it. It's like, you may not get hired just because of the color of your hair. Yeah. But because they've already hired someone that is brunette or blonde or whatever it might be, and you come in and they want someone that has a different look or something. Again, it doesn't mean you're not good or not good enough or have the talent. It's just that's not what they were looking for, because they're looking to create success, right? In this industry, though, you're going in thinking like, I have everything that it takes to be successful and still not get picked. So
let me ask you a question on this.
Sure.
What you're saying is fascinating, right? Because it's about that self-confidence piece. It's
Sure.
about the self-awareness piece.
Yes.
Well, so as this is, you're experiencing this, and all of a sudden now you find this avenue of social media to actually craft you and your brand and the way you want and how you want. Isn't it why we've seen such an explosion in social media and the power of it? Because people can be their own judge, their own crafter. They can create their own narrative based on anything they want. And if people like it, they'll follow. If they don't, they won't.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is.
Listen, that's one of I am such a proponent of social media and what it's done. I think there's many, many, many negatives to it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the positives, for me, this is my opinion. Anything that I ever say is my opinion. I know that can go without saying, but again, some people...
You got a reinforcement out in that world, man.
Yeah.
I like, my favorite is like, now I'm all the people trolling your identity. And
oh my God.
Like I'm literally getting, now they're sending me the emails, right? They're saying Eric's identity has been, stolen overseas.
Right.
That one was legit. That person sent in like 4 emails to me. And I was like, my God, he needs to see this. And you're like, dude, that's like the 5th one this week.
It happens a lot.
Right. So the component of all this growth and this exposure, yes, it seems like it's fulfilling you, but there's also, it's at a cost too.
Listen, again, for me, social media, kind of going back to where the pivot that was happening, again, it's timing. And I had a level of awareness that things were showing up in my life. Windows were opening, doors were closing, whatever. And again, in the span of a year, this started happening. I ended up going back with my old agent because they said, listen, what's wrong with making an extra $50,000 to $100,000 a year?
Nothing.
And I said, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing.
I also said to them, though, I still have a full-time job, and I actually had my own private clients still.
Right.
I respect what you do for a living, the team at the time. I also want that in return, that I'm not just sitting around waiting for a call to go meet someone for an audition or whatever it might be. I will work with you and I will bend over backwards to make us all successful. But you also have to understand what I'm doing right now. I still have other jobs, other roles that I need to fulfill that are paying my bills.
And this was happening across the whole industry, this cataclysmic shift of control and branding. People becoming the brand. Blogging had taken off. It was massive.
Sure.
Web blogging,
sure.
web stuff. People, representatives, that weren't your traditional representatives promoting things. This was really a dynamic shift. And for you to recognize that was a big deal.
I didn't, though.
That's crazy.
Again, I didn't because I will say it came. I saw it come. But again, for me, because I was coming into this, we'll say from a different angle. Yeah. Again, never looking for this, never expecting it. Again, my age, whereas I've got friends now that are, in their 20s, 5 million followers, 6 million followers, whatever it is. They've been doing it as long as or longer than I've been doing it. And that's why they've been able to build. And again, from what social media has provided to them, again, it's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Again, I shouldn't say that. It is used as a marketing tool, but it's also used as a way to communicate. It's a way to connect with people. It's a way to build, find your village, so to speak, your tribe, your chosen family, whatever you want to talk about.
Right.
It's a way to self-identify, that we really haven't had before. And again, through that to kind of find yourself, create how you want to communicate with the world, because it is a public platform. It brings many pluses to people, and people, again, find great success. At that time when I came into it, I had zero clue that this would happen for me.
Yeah.
And would never assume that, would never expect it. But for me, it was a path.
Yeah.
It allowed me to pivot at 47 years old, to all of a sudden to open up a new chapter in my life. And as many people, and I had things written about me and interviewed about me, and again, it was a renaissance that I never thought would happen in my life. Yeah. I thought I was on track. And for me, people, the joke, stuck in a Rutherford.
Yep. I get it all the time.
That I thought I was not going to get out of it, that this was going to be my life. And then in the span of that year, these things started happening. I signed with that agency and I booked a job 2 days later. Mm-hmm. I also lost my job at the Holiday Reporter.
Yep.
My relationship ended. I sold my house, and all of a sudden I was alone, living in a rental, didn't have a job. Luckily I had money and savings, and yet these opportunities were being presented to me. And in that time, in that moment, I was like, screw it, go for it.
Do you think that, again, going back to that divine intervention of life is, you had to experience once again all of these very painful things?
Sure.
Because, you were in a relationship for 16 years,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that is devastating in and of itself,
Sure.
right? Now all of a sudden, this great job that you had enjoyed now all of a sudden, bye, thank you very much, and you're on your own, you're living by yourself, and being bi-coastal, and
I wasn't bi-coastal yet.
You had just gone, you were just in LA still, right?
Yeah, that was
right?
the primary.
That was primary, right? It also created in my mind.
I have to also I want to say,
please.
just so for those of you who are listening, it was also one of the darkest, hopeless, kind of moments in my life, in the sense of, we are raised, mm-hmm. To have these goals or these dreams, or even society culturally, right? You like to be in a loving relationship, to own a home, to have a roof over your head, to have food on the table, kind of core basics, right? Or even the American dream, however you want to refer to it. I had all those, and then all of a sudden they were gone.
Like that.
Gone. And again, I remember for the first 6 months of this all happening, and it happened quite quickly. And I would go home. And again, this is the first time I was alone mm-hmm. for 16 years.
Yeah.
So your behavior, your sense of self, you are with someone, your family, and you have how you relate to life, how you, even just as simple as like dinner.
Everything.
I would come home and open the door and sit in my living room. And sometimes I was just paralyzed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, what was I supposed to do now? Okay, well, I'm not cooking for two. I'm alone. I'm single. That idea of being single, mm-hmm. how the world relates to you, how you relate to the world, you relate to yourself. And then getting ready to step into, we'll say, and at the time, I didn't even consider it as a career.
Yeah.
But step into a chapter of my life. I didn't know what it looked like. And so
And the thing about social media too is it naturally pulls you in to become more and more authentic, more and more vulnerable, more and more available. Because there's a certain point where the people that are paying attention, they want more.
Well, the thing is, a yes and no.
Yeah.
And what I would say to that is, and again, you learn as you go. Mm-hmm. And people come to me all like, again, because we'll say one of the oldest people or there's not a lot of people my age doing this, so to speak, or finding success or however you want to look at it. So I get questions. I get asked a lot of questions, and how do you do this? Or why do I do this? I don't feel comfortable with this. And again, it doesn't matter your age. For me, you have the control of what you put out there. Mm-hmm. You can shape it. You can shape the message, so to speak, however you want it to be. You can post as often as you want. You can post as little as you want. You and I were just having a conversation, like finding that line of what you're willing to share with people publicly, and what you're not. Keeping for yourself, keeping private, keeping behind the camera, behind, the platform, so to speak. And again, it's however you want to make it, especially in however the control that you want to put out there. And when I came into this space, it was less about being authentic. It was more, to me, how I saw it. It was, again, people...
Look how badass my life is.
Look how amazing my life is that, again. And that's what it was. And what has happened over the course of the last few years is, as more and more people get on social media or participate, as more and more, we'll say culturally, as we become more aware, you can smell people's BS,
man.
And so the audience.
That's the one amazing thing. Sorry to cut you off, but that's the one amazing thing that I think is really the unintended results of this much information about this many people. Our bullshit meters are getting really dialed in, man.
People aren't stupid.
No. They might not have factual information about one particular train of whatever, or scientific backgrounds or whatever, but man, their gut is what keeps them alive every day. And that gut, that gut becomes...
Well, you said something earlier. I was doing a panel, I don't know, a few years ago, and I was speaking to an audience. It's a couple hundred people, and there are 5 or 6 of us up there. And so I'm giving my experience, and a young lady in the audience, she goes, so what does being famous mean to you? And I kind of shared my experience, and certainly my experience comes from being in Hollywood and the whole thing and what that means. And, I grew up in a certain age and what that is, and Hollywood movie stars or TV stars or, musicians or whatever it was. And then someone, again, a young lady on the stage, probably 24, 25, I can't remember if she was at Yahoo or somewhere, or BuzzFeed or something, whatever. And she goes, listen, fame doesn't mean what it used to mean. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Whatever. Yeah. And she goes, we make people famous who we want to make famous. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that?
Very fascinating comment.
She goes, the way we used to be fed who we want to make famous. Whether whomever, right?
Pick a star, any
Brad
star,
Pitt, whoever you want to,
60s, 70s, 80s,
right? Yeah. Bruce Springsteen, again, whatever it is, Today, because of social media, and we now can pick and choose who we like. Yeah. Going back to what you said. Yeah. Who we decide to follow, who we decide to support, and it may not be who we're being told to or fed to, or the corporations are saying or whatever it is. It's who we choose to be famous and follow and support and comment on and repost and whatever it is. And in that moment I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Yeah. I had never thought of it that way. And again, this was a few years ago. So that actually began to shift for me. I'm always appreciative, grateful anytime someone...
Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah, listen, I get stopped on the street quite a bit. People follow
both
me.
In LA and New York. I've been with you multiple times. It's awesome.
It's the same thing. Like, when you get hired to do a job, I'm always grateful, and I'm going to show up and do my best. If you choose to follow me and participate and share in this journey that we're going on, and then I am grateful every day, and I take a great, it's a responsibility, and I don't take it lightly, and again, because there are so many people that are doing it now, that are sharing, and again, different capacities. Some people just to share, some people are doing it, some people have made careers out of it. And again, I have such a respect for anybody who participates, because the positive and the negative that goes along with it. So when if you're choosing to participate with me along this journey, you know, I'm going to show up and do my best. And it's you know, again, to your point, talking about modeling, it's like, well, standing in front of the camera. Well, no, sometimes it's so much more than that. Just like this is so much. Some of my friends, or again, majority of my friends that I know that are doing this, again, some have 50,000 followers, some have 100,000 followers, some have millions of followers. They're some of the hardest working people that I know because, you know, the second you post something, share something, as you know, it's old, it's done. You got to do something else. You got to do something else. And this is
content creation.
Content creators. Exactly. It's like such a, you know, it's so key, you know, and that to me, again, going back to this pivot that happened, it began to answer some of the questions or doubts or things that I felt were missing in my life, in the sense of, you now have an opportunity in my late 40s. I can recreate my life. I can shape it for however I want. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's ups and downs, and some days are better than others. And I still, you know, sometimes I work with incredible brands, and then all of a sudden I see a few months later, like they've hired somebody else.
Yeah.
That's just, it's the nature of life. Right. But what has happened is, you know, and you kind of referenced talking about activism, is, listen, everyone goes through things in life. I believe that. And everyone has pain. It just might look different.
Well, that's the one unifying thing across all cultures, is that we are able to share our pain.
Absolutely.
And have an appreciation, unless you lack empathy or whatever.
For sure.
You know, but most of us.
Yes, for sure. Listen, I also have to say, I think people, at the end of the day, people always, you can identify or connect with people. People want to be seen, mm-hmm. you know, valued. They want to feel some sense of love, whatever that might look like. Mm-hmm. And even if that is just being valued, that their being, their self, their existence, there is value there. And I see you. So, you know, for me, in doing this pivot, it's allowed me to earn a living. And again, some days are better than others.
Amen. It's the grind.
What I've also taken it upon myself is, you know, I grew up in the 80s. You know, right? Well, let's say 70. I was born in 67. That's my age. You do the calculations. You know, listen, as we all go through our journey, we all experience things. I experienced a few things.
Few things.
Yeah. And that shaped me as a person, you know, and, you know, I knew, in going through this platform, you know, I started getting messages and people asked about, you know, I've been sober over 30 years.
That's what I love, brother.
Thank you.
God bless you.
And I was pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
We'll say, till I got sober at 21. And so people reach out about that, you know, and people would DM me and people ask me questions, whatever. And so again, I've taken part of this journey and this platform that I've been given and I work at or whatever, to be very open about that, because I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. I didn't have someone that I could connect with, someone that I could look up to, that I could look to, that their life, yeah, maybe they've gone through a struggle or struggles, mm-hmm. or continue to go through struggles, but they're still showing up every day.
Yeah. And
they're still finding some positivity, or a lot of positivity, and they're still able to give back. And so that has become a part of my activism, if you want to look at it that way, and to share and to offer people strength. And sometimes listen, I started doing these Tuesday talks.
Well, that's what I've got right here.
Hello.
This was a big pivot moment.
It was a pivot moment for me, because I had my partner right now, and one more morning, you know, like I shot a bunch of content, and it was another, we'll say, pretty picture, as he said. And he looked at it, he's like, listen, I'm bored with you. It was like a gut punch.
That's heavy.
I mean, you could say anything else. You could call me, you know, and ask whatever it is, right. You know. But for someone to say, I'm bored with you. Yeah. You're boring. It got my attention.
Yeah.
And I knew what he meant.
It's funny that James did that, because Jonna did that to me last summer. Same thing.
You get it.
She says, you know, you spend so much time adhering to this very small niche that you know you're going to have an impact, which is the veteran-based community, the first responders, all that. That's a given. You're there. It's time for you to start to explore other possibilities within you.
Well, I've always said that about you.
Yeah.
You know, to me, I have such a respect for you and for the guys that you've been on the teams with and what you all go through, let alone just the training, but then what you do obviously in the world and for the country and everything. And that I've always, and again, you've developed, this is what you do. You go to different companies, you've helped kids, you've helped men and women, you help literally this team building and this sense of leadership and self-confidence. And, and even now talking about bowling in your new book, but I've always looked at you as the people that you can reach or touch or have influence on is so much broader.
It's scary though, isn't it?
Hey, is it?
I think it is, because
for me, it's not.
Well, obviously, I mean, these Tuesday talks have become a massive component in the expectation that you're going to get on and you're going to talk about positivity in a way that's much more authentic, much more open. You're going to share stuff, your reflections of your week, and you're really going to help people, as this, not only a buffer to those negative outside influence, I call it negative insurgency, right? But also as a buffer internally.
Sure.
Right.
Yes, for sure.
And that for me is the real fascinating piece, right? Because, there's always a component of you and I that I look at you and there's this, I'm 8 years old and you're my superhero,
sure,
right?
Right.
And so, and then, watching, and being able to reflect on what it must have been like being gay in the 1980s in Boca Raton, Florida, moving out to LA in 89, 90, 85. That's right. Sorry, I was off. I was thinking about me and having addiction issues, and then getting into one of the most cutthroat industries that exists on the planet. Man, I'm like, my God, this guy is just a glutton for punishment. And then you go through this growth process that's just massive to where you're seeing this. But now you're coming back and exposing all of these things, your childhood trauma, the challenge with how mom and dad dealt with you being gay, our relationship.
Sure.
All of these things are finally coming out to a space where you're like, okay, I'm going to talk about these things.
Well, again, I'm such one of my mantras in my life has always been, again, we all experience things, journey. It's the journey we're on. I believe that, again,
there is no escape from suffering.
No,
not at all.
I believe, I was just saying this to John the other day. And we were talking about it. Again, whether you believe in God or your religion or your faith or whatever it is, I believe in a higher power.
Amen. And
I believe we are souls and we were put on this planet to go through the journey that we're supposed to go through. Mm-hmm. It both evolving as ourselves, our own souls, but also to affect those that are around us, right?
Yeah, man. That's the key.
And to me, that is part of the responsibility that we have as human beings. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I have always felt if you survive something and can thrive from it, it is your responsibility as a human being to share with others. Because one, so often what I have experienced, and certainly what I went through when I was having these moments in my life, and then once I got through them, is the level of loneliness and the darkness that consumes you, and then from that, the shame of it, and the lack of faith, and then again it dives into so many other things. And so for me, I know many people, many other people have gone through what I've gone through, and I'm only sharing from my experience. I felt a responsibility because I did survive.
You did.
And I've stumbled along the way for sure, but I'm still here. I'm not dead.
Yeah. And it kills a lot of people.
For sure. I just had someone I knew they committed suicide.
I'm sorry, brother.
Thanks. It is part of life, and that's where that is their time, mm-hmm. And it's something I'm also as I've gotten older, certainly it's something I'm very aware of. You don't always have tomorrow. Mm-mm. So what are you going to do today? So for me, in talking these Tuesday talks, again, being told I'm bored with you, I'm bored with what you're doing, it just pushes you forward. And so for me, it's, I'm such a proponent to share what you've gone through, because again, I know for me, and I learned this from when I got sober in AA, and, part of the reason when you show up and you go to these meetings is not as just you're gaining these tools to stay sober one more day, a day at a time. But you're also going to these meetings to create community, to get outside of yourself and because some days the only difference between me and someone else is I have one more day sober than they do.
That's it. One more minute.
Yeah. And the fact that when you go and you share your experience, it might give strength and hope to someone else. So for me on these Tuesday talks, sometimes you can change a person's life, change a person's day just by smiling at them, truly seeing them and saying, engaging. Because you don't, I remember there was a moment I was at a grocery store and maybe it's because when I was growing up, I didn't feel seen, or because I was hiding so often, I didn't feel seen, or I was afraid to be seen, or whatever it is, just as myself. I remember it was a grocery store and there was a moment. And again, I know I have been blessed the way when I smile, it connects with people.
And it lights up the room, brother.
And I love to smile. It's very easy for me to smile. And I've hidden behind that smile, but I also know it's a way to connect with another human being. And I was at a checkout line and I'm such a proponent. Again, I've trained customer service training, the whole thing. And you connect with someone by looking at them.
Yeah.
And you see them. And sometimes it's just for the exchange, but sometimes you truly see them and they see you. And I was there and this woman she was checking me out and she was looking down and she wasn't looking. You could see, you
Pain.
Just felt the weight. And I looked at her and then she looked up and I smiled at her. And we paused for a moment. And then there was a physical, emotional, and I would like to say spiritual shift in her where you felt something lift. Now, again, it may have just been in the moment. It may have been the rest of her day. I don't know. But to me, to be able to give that to someone, to share with someone, to lift them up, because I have experience of my own challenges, troubles, darkness, whatever it might be, to be able to move beyond that and to still live in that positivity. And again, it costs you nothing.
Nothing. It's free.
To smile at someone. It costs you nothing to hug someone. It costs you nothing. Well, I guess I was going to say to text someone, but it might, depending on your plan. But do you know what I mean? Like, so to be able to,
all you're sacrificing is time.
Yeah. And again, it's like in
seconds,
you can lift someone up and, and shift for them what they're going through. And I'm such a firm believer. And again, I will say it, whether it's through a text or smiling someone or connecting someone or even engaging someone on social media. And I do find out that it has made a difference in people's lives and because they'll message me back or, I had a mother reach out to me and again, she is raised in the South. She lives in the South and her daughter just came out to her and she, because of her religion, because of where they were born, how they were raised, the whole thing. And she said she did not handle it well.
Yeah.
She cast her daughter out and whatever. And she realized, that is not what she wanted. That she loved her daughter and she was reaching out to me to offer her some, not even just hope, but some direction, some tools.
Some guidance. Yeah.
Like, how did I handle it when someone wronged me just for expressing truth? Mm-hmm. And so we talked about it in email. And I said, even the fact that you've reached out to me, the fact that you've reached out to me shows how much you love your daughter.
Amen.
Start there. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad person for your experience being different than what your daughter's is. And Dwayne Wade right now, I don't know if you've...
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going through something very similar, and I think he's such a great example. It's like, I'm a parent to my child. I'm a father to my child. I want my child to feel their greatest self, to be their greatest self, to feel happiness for who they are on this earth. And again, I don't believe God makes mistakes. Mm-hmm. I just don't. We might look different. we might have different experiences, different paths, but I don't believe they do. I don't believe he, she does, however you want to look at it. So, you know, talking about this mother, it's, again, I wanted to say to her, and again, this came through social media. She reached out to me.
Yeah.
So it was my responsibility to give her the tools that and again, this is only my experience. This is only my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, and I will never profess to know something more than I do, or to talk about something that I don't. You know, and again, you're the similar. One of the things that, you know, keeps me alive, keeps me excited.
Not boring.
Not boring. Exactly. We love that word. Is that I'm still curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of stuff, and I've gone through a few things. I don't know everything. And every day it's like, even at my age, at 52, you know, sometimes I'll show up at these dinners, you know, that I get invited to, or whatever it is, and I have as much excitement or more than someone who's half my age.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's because I feel like
It's perception.
Listen, so much of it's perception.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me just interject real quick. And,
Sure.
And I'm just going to take a quick moment, because I have a feeling we could go on continuously.
You and I, for sure.
For 9 hours. So I just want to talk real quickly about our sponsors. You know, for me, the biggest thing that I always worry about from my past experience in the military and blast injuries, as well as, contact sports my whole life with lacrosse and football, is how my brain is functioning, because as you already know, I earn my living speaking, I earn my living thinking, I earn my living doing research and evaluating and helping people with performance. So what a godsend it was for me to discover Onnit and Aubrey and these incredible products that they're making, specifically Alpha Brain. And every morning I wake up, I drink my glass of water, I pop an Alpha Brain for the day, and it just helps me keep that additional clarity and focus throughout the day, especially when I go from city to city, or I'm around the clock, or I'm like just the other day I got back, I did a 5-hour seminar in Oklahoma. I went to the airport. I took a flight all the way back to Fort Lauderdale. I got back in. I was in bed by midnight. I was up the next morning, and I was speaking to the Bates swim team for 3 hours. So making sure that I can continue that process and continue doing it, as well as really stay focused in developing new products in my own world and what I do at Froglogic. Alpha Brain has been this wonderful thing for me, and I'm so thankful for Onnit and producing. This is their cornerstone product. So please do yourself a favor. If you want that little extra fire in your synapses, that little extra ability to stay focused and remain engaged in a way that's beneficial for you and your performance, then go check out Alpha Brain at onnit.com. That's ONNIT. .com, and check out Alpha Brain. And then another really great product that I love using is the Total Gut Health. I've had stomach issues ever since I was in the military and getting out, and have struggled for long periods of time. And so in order for me to really just make sure my gut health is in tune and in line, Total Gut Health by Onnit for healthy gut flora is really been another pivotal aspect, which enhances my ability to perform in what I do for a living. So again, go over to onnit.com, tell them Froglogic sent you, and enjoy the products. All right, my second sponsor that I really am just so proud and honored to have is Wise Company. Man, the ultimate in food preparation, preparedness, freeze-dry food that lasts up to 25 years. That really tastes great, I'm here to tell you. And I've tried every type of freeze-dried food you can think of, from MREs to the competitors in the field for camping meals, and you name it. I've eaten it before, and I got to tell you, Wise Company is the best. I'm privileged to have been working with this company for the past year plus. They really provide top-notch products, whether your camping meals or your long-term food buckets that you can have for easy storage, or your 3-day package. They have incredible camping packages, these weekend packages that you can find out there. You can also find products for go bags that they sell that you can stick in your car if you're in an emergency situation. For me, preparedness is a big deal, not only because I was a Navy SEAL and worked for the CIA, but also because I have 4 daughters and a fiance, and they depend on me. They depend that if something catastrophic were to happen, i.e. a hurricane, almost like what we had before, we actually evacuated when Hurricane Dorian came through, to make sure that I've thought through everything, that I'm in the right state of mind, that I've prepared well enough, and that they can have the confidence that they're not going to starve, and we're going to be okay if catastrophe strikes. So do yourself a favor. Not only be prepared yourself, but prepare your family for the worst possible circumstances. Get over there to wisefoodstorage.com. That's wisefoodstorage.com, and go through all their products. And here's the cool thing. They have a 90-day money-back guarantee on all products, everything. If you buy it, you use it, you taste it, you don't like it, ship it back, you'll get your money back. And really you're going to be impressed not only by packaging, by the taste, by the efficiency, how to storage ability, by the shelf life, 25 years. I mean, this is really a company that is coming on strong and really have their focus on being the number one company in the industry. And I recommend them. I have all their products here at the headquarters. I use their products in camping because I have a real peace of mind knowing that no matter what goes down, whether we're just out on a family hike or we're facing a major catastrophe, right? The zombie apocalypse is coming, that myself and my family are prepared to have the proper nutrients and the nourishment that we need in those circumstances. So head over to wisefoodstorage.com, use the promo code Froglogic, and you will get 25% off everything they have in stock. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's phenomenal. It's the place to go. It'll just give you the peace of mind. Okay, last things I want to just talk about is our Froglogic products. To head over to froglogic.com. We've got great new Flex Fit hats with the embroidered logo on it. We've got sweatshirts. We've got old school Embrace Fear t-shirts. We've got my Forging Self-Confidence book. We've got self-confidence t-shirts. We've got stuff for kids, stickers, all kinds of things. And the thing I'm most proud about now is the second edition in our Doc Frog series. We've got the original, which was Doc Frog's physical training manual for kids, 12 exercises that you and your child can learn together while learning a motivational mindset that works. That's Doc Frog, this brilliant Navy SEAL anthropomorphic superhero character I created in order to disseminate the information for your kid, 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 if you want to stretch it. And then also our latest one, and the one I'm most proud about, Doc Frog's Anti-Bully Manual. And in this, he's got his new group, the Anti-Bully Brigade, with his great teammates, Wiley Wolf, a former Green Beret and Special Ops guy, Semper Fido, a Marine Reconnaissance Bulldog, and then Hannah Hawk, who is an Air Force Special Operations and former case officer for the CIA. They've come together, and what we've done is we've created an incredible opportunity for kids that are getting bullied for a solution that works for them. You know, it's a shame that about 160,000 kids every single day stay home from school. They don't go because of bullying. They're being bullied online. They're being bullied on social media. It's really a profound epidemic. And another insane statistic is that probably only 30 to 40% of all bullying ever goes reported. So think about that. 60% of bullying doesn't even go reported. Well, this manual was designed for those kids that are suffering, that are in this horrific situation, because what Doc and the gang do and the Anti-Bully Brigade does is they teach you a sophisticated, well thought out way to compile a team and using modern current technology to stop the bully and to capture real hardcore evidence that you can produce not only for your parents, for the bully's parents, for your school teachers and administrators, to superintendents, and God forbid, to local law enforcement if it's bad enough. This is a book that definitely can help kids, so check it out at our website at teamfroglogic.com. Go to the store where you can find all types of our products out there. And also, if you or your company is looking for a motivational speaker, you're looking to talk about performance to enhance your individual or your team orientation, to elevate your game by being able to embrace fear, forge self-confidence, live a team life, or to find purpose or develop great culture, then I'd love to come work with you and your organization. Your team. I work a ton with teams, as you know or don't know. 2018, I worked with the Collegiate World Series champions, Oregon State Beavers, as well as the World Series champion, Boston Red Sox. This year, I got an opportunity to work with the Penn State Nittany Lion men's lacrosse team that went to the semifinals, and got to work with the Green Bay Packers, who made the playoffs and moving forward. So, please, if you're interested in some really entertaining, high energy, high impact type of motivational training, coaching, or just a hoo-yah speech, check us out on our website at teamfroglogic.com. Just find the contact portion, send us an email, and we'll be in touch ASAP. So thank you so much. Thanks for that interruption. I appreciate that, buddy.
I know it, and I support it.
Right. I think the beautiful aspect of experiencing all forms of trauma, or all forms of challenges, right? And identity, because identity is a massive component of the human condition.
For sure.
How we identify with ourselves, how we identify with others, how we identify in the greater context of our social hierarchies, man. And when I come to hear, your page at IMG,
right,
and I look at this, and man, I think so often, people will look at this and say, my God, he is gorgeous, he's incredible, and all that. But there are so many layers to you.
Sure.
I mean, so many layers. And now you have the wisdom which goes with those layers, right? You see, like you were saying, these people at these events, these younger kids, well, they're trying to show this very dynamic spectrum of who they are, but
sure,
a lot of the time it's contrived, it's forced because of whatever's trending at a particular time. Do you find it difficult in and around this environment, the fashion industry, the events industry, culturally now, right?
Yeah.
That with this look, with this presence, Mr. Rutherford, all this, do people have a tendency to cultivate their own concept of your identity?
Absolutely.
All the time, right? Yeah. And what do you try and do? Like you just suggested with this woman in the South, man, you're trying to show who you are.
Yes.
And what you mean.
Yes.
And that's really the next kind of phase of this growth, right?
Well, that's the phase I'm in now.
Yeah.
Again, it's, you look at that picture, it's, well, let me say one thing too, when you look at it, talking about beauty, or what people find attractive, handsome, whatever. It's all cultural, it's so much of, I think, for the last year for me, has been.
And would you do me one real quick favor?
Of course.
Will you weave in the concept of shame in this response,
sure, yes,
please? Because
yes.
I think that's critical.
Yes. Talking about just beauty and attractiveness and what makes someone more attractive than others. And, for the last year for me, it's, people talk about gender identity and how you identify and gender politics and kind of everything like that. And one of the great things to me that has come from social media is they're all forms of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to look the way that I look. Some people find it attractive. We'll say traditionally it's been viewed as being attractive. But the great thing and the beautiful thing about social media is other people and finding their identity and how finding their own beauty, and then finding others that find that's beautiful. It's, again, someone might be able to appreciate what I look like, but they don't find me beautiful, or they don't find me attractive. They can understand it, but they find someone else that attractive. Whether it's the color of my skin or the shape that I am, or,
what clothes you wear,
how you wear them. Again,
it's car you drive. It's all a component.
Less car, I guess. For me, I'm thinking just physically.
Yeah. Check.
I'm just thinking physically.
The immediate essence of who you are. Right?
Yeah, and again, it's as you know, it's part of how we identify is how we dress.
Yeah, man.
And I've a number of friends of mine who are trans men and trans women, and then so much of them finding themselves is how they dress and how the public perceives them. And again, it's how we create perception. It's how we self-identify, and many times we are stumbling on our way and things that have stopped us because of the shame that we feel about ourselves, or, that culturally we're not as accepted. Some are accepted more than others. And it's, again, trying to find your way
in a way that's not letting that way take place.
Yeah. And
like I had,
jump in.
I want to reference it for the audience, right? Because, so many people out there, especially, I posted a video about Doc Frog's new book, right?
Sure.
In the anti-bully book. And what do I get? I get an online bully that comes out and questions my Christianity because I say, all these kids that are going through really extreme challenges, especially these trans kids, the homosexual kids now, there's this still the level of persecutions out there, right? It's ungodly, whatever they want to talk. And as a person that...
Listen, there was just a 12-year-old, God, I was just reading it online or last night or something like that. They just hung themselves.
Oh, God.
Because they were being bullied because they appeared to be gay.
Wow.
Hung himself at 12.
That's insane, right?
Hung him. I just want to stress that. Felt so lost, so persecuted, a child hung themselves. Again, not to get to whatever.
Please.
But it just... Sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it just...
Well, it was the concept that my perspective when I was a kid and what you were going through was radically different. Partly because you were told not to inform me. You were told not to share. You had shame of identity.
For sure.
And maybe it would contort the way I looked up to you. All these things, man. And I remember, when we finally had that conversation when I was 22, and I was like, and I'd always suspected it, but you don't, it never been confirmed. And now all of a sudden I'm forced in a way to go, well, how do I evaluate this? And for many, 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 many years. And I remember being in the teams and people were so homophobic in the teams. It was scary, and I remember being, having shame to talk about you being, I actually had one platoon member say, if you don't shut up, Rudd, I'm going to tell everybody your brother's gay. And that's powerful shit, but it's like, okay, I'm going to cower to this.
Sure.
I'm going to.
Sure.
And so now we're in this amazing time where people can be themselves, right? But yet they still have to manage the barrage. Is that a big component of what you want to do for people? Is teach them how to manage the shame and also how to be survivors?
Well, yes, for sure. Again, from my experience.
Yeah.
And some days are better than others. Listen, there's some days. Well, listen, all you have to do is read the news.
Yeah.
People are still killed, but not just killed from, are ostracized or lose a job or can't adopt kids. I'm so respectful of, or let's say, I am respectful of people's. Listen, we can see the world differently.
We do. It's inevitable.
It isn't.
8 billion people are not going to see the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I get, when we cross paths or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm respectful of that. And I would only, again, doing to others, you want others to do unto you. I would only want that in return, and this is who I am. It has taken years to get to this point. Some days are better than others, but I continue to show up, and every day you get stronger when you show up. Right. And, for me, yes, there are still some people, groups that don't feel I deserve to live here or deserve to breathe, deserve to have rights, deserve to marry, to fall in love, to have kids, whatever it is. So part of what I have wanted to make a part of kind of my existence is to show up and to want to connect with other people, to say, listen, I see you, I see what you want. I know you might disagree with me, but I just want you to know, as I support you living your life, and I only would want that you, or hope that you would want the same for me. And so I want to put that out there, that we can see each other, that we can support each other, we can have different views, and some groups, again, whether it's the color of your skin, or women even, it's not even just being gay. It's just, there are still people that feel oppressed, suppressed, disregarded, not valued. And what I wanted to do, again, is being more active. And again, I think the more aware you become, the more responsibility you have as a person, as a role. When you know differently, behave differently.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe it's possible for a utopic society? Do you think that we can ascend to a place where that level of openness, at least in the initial meet, because once anybody opens their mouth in an engagement, really all the preconceived judgment or notions, are either realized, validated, or you're like, wow, I didn't expect that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Do you think it's possible?
No.
Okay.
And is that being
I
closed-minded on my part? Here's
because I think what a lot of things that I hear and what I openly have thought myself in the past is, people that get into activism,
right.
And this is very difficult for me because coming from what I had seen about the true nature of the human condition and how absolutely destructive we are.
I should say we are capable of.
That we are capable of,
right?
When placed in the right position and with the right priming, we do god awful things. Look at the 20th century. Estimated over 300 to 400 million people were annihilated for some type of reason or another, right? The worst century in human history. And we're 19 years out of that, going into our 20th year out of that. And I think you see on the internet all these people who talk about this higher level of consciousness, right? To that we're capable of this now. We shouldn't be in this experience. And so many people from my background or whatever, like, you're out of your mind. Stop lying to people. Stop trying to project that we can live in that space. That's bullshit. You're setting people up for failure. You're setting all these young kids and these up for failure. That's their argument. What do you say to that?
That looking at it that way, it's as opposed to like a pure utopian society. It's that I disagree with. I think I do believe everyone can have a level of awareness. Because again, listen, we react a certain way to people that don't look like us, want different things than we do or whatever. Many times it's because of fear, lack of understanding. So it becomes fearful. You feel that if you support that you're losing something in yourself. You feel that, again, so many times I'll hear people, some kind of propaganda, the homosexual propaganda, or whatever, whatever propaganda, it's so many people feel it's an attack, a personal attack on their way of life, their way of viewing. And that isn't what it is. Many times, or again, this is how I believe it's these groups of people that will say, again, whether it could be the color of your skin, and people don't understand it. They're afraid of it. Whatever. It's just different. People don't always handle differences well. Yeah. Because they don't understand it, or they think it's a threat to their livelihood, their lives, what they want, and it's really not. Now again, I'm not getting into like someone's religion who is saying it is an affront, it is an attack on beliefs. Again, I think that's a different conversation. But again, it is the same thing.
And if you want, I would love to have those conversations.
Well,
I really would.
We definitely can jump into it.
But that's a whole different.
It's a whole other. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, and I started doing this, working on this show, inspired by this African American director, Ava DuVernay, and she had a pivot in her life. She was doing a different kind of job, and she wanted to be a filmmaker. She wanted to help tell people's stories.
Yeah, man.
We all have a story.
Hey, absolutely. Thank God.
And we all have a story to tell.
Now I'm going to be in business forever. Thank God, right?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm such a believer in that. All our stories have value.
Amen. The
characters might look different, but they all have value, and they all come from the human experience. And that's one thing she did. And one of the quotes that she said, and again, I'm quoting it, I'm mangling the quote, but she said, when she came back and she taught how to be a director, and she trained and she studied and whatever. And she goes, at a certain point, I got tired of knocking on doors with people that didn't want to open the door and work with me. So I built my own door and invited in the people that wanted to work with me. And so for me, I wanted to do this show where I interviewed and talked with people that had gone through something, that had pushed forward, that had faced challenges, whether it because of the color of their skin, because of their gender, whether they're men or women, because of their sexuality, because of how they identified, because of their background. Maybe they came from a background that didn't have a lot of money. They grew up differently than other people in an industry where they wanted to go into, and so they were ostracized from that. Or maybe they didn't have the education, or whatever it might be. Doors were closed to them, and yet they didn't give up. And so much of what your background is about, never quit. It's continually showing up. It's team effort. It's building. It's and so many times that is defeating for people. But again, I think one of the great proponents from that has come out of social media, in the sense of you can find other people just like you.
Amen.
And so I want to do this show. And, I interviewed a friend of mine who is in the fashion industry, who felt like an outsider working in an industry that was very much about being on the inside and looking a certain way or whatever. And then I interviewed a friend of mine. He, found success, we'll say notoriety on a reality show in the UK. And he came across as not the greatest guy.
Yeah.
And his dreams were bigger than that.
Editing.
He said himself, I will say, his name's Jay Collins. He said, he goes, listen, that was kind of me.
I portrayed the character.
I was this guy. And as we all are, we are more than just what is seen. We are more than just what we initially meet someone. There's a story. There's
true
a path
depth in every human soul.
Every single person. And that's why I do believe that we can get to a point we do see the value and respect people, even though their story might look different. And then I interviewed my friend, Rachel Johnson, African-American stylist, woman, started styling in the music industry. Again, not necessarily very supportive of women, in the past. And also, she became a stylist, and she started styling like LeBron James and Cam Newton and, athletes that weren't necessarily looked as these luxury brands, or we'll say a few years ago, no one wanted it, that they didn't fit a certain mold, or they weren't white. They weren't, all these things, and now if you look at it, you'd be like, what are you talking about? Look at all these people, look at cover magazines. Some of the most influential, we'll say men, right? Women too, but men in, we'll say, fashion are athletes.
Yeah.
And African-American, people of color, whatever it might be. Those are the people that men are looking up to. Well, that wasn't the way it was a few years ago.
Right.
And I also interviewed a friend of mine, Alok, trans. They are performance artists that have worked all around the world and grew up in Texas. And so faced kind of adversity there. And then they came to New York, and, their life was threatened every time they walked from the subway to their home. And, but what they're trying to do is to educate, to have an understanding, create a connection that we are all human beings placed here on this earth, and we are all experiencing something, and we all can coexist. You don't have to like me. You don't have to love me. You don't have to want to have dinner with me, so to speak. Just respect me.
Yeah.
And I will do that same to you. And again, some people, that's challenging to them because they feel it's an attack or an affront
on the fabric of society. I mean, that's really this insanity that they're out there spewing is that, you're forcing the LGBTQ community or whatever activism it might be, or this sense that the cancel culture is beginning to override this very ingrained fabric of our society, right? And somehow, some way that they're going to have to adapt, right, to this. And I'm not okay with homosexual. I'm not okay with transgender. They're forcing me to be okay and all that. And I think they're all missing the point, right?
I agree.
It is not that, and nor has it ever been. It's just, hey, when your child has more openness and understanding and wisdom per se as to the perspective or the spectrum of differences that exist in our world, that's saying something. And I think the messaging, so often isn't even heard. People just shut it down automatically.
For sure. Again, it's different. And I totally agree with you. And that's why I've never gotten why there's such a anger. I feel people feel they're being backed into a corner or having something shoved down it, when so often we'll say, whether it's with LGBTQ or again, whatever it might be that is different than yours, right? It's different than yours. It is then spun to be, you're shoving something down my throat. You're making me believe something that I don't believe. To me, that is not what the basis is. The basis of is, and how I look at it again, is being respectful. Someone could come to me and, with their faith, it is very different. I'm a sinner or whatever, however they view to see it. I'm not taking that away from you. That is how your choices that you are making in your life. All I'm asking is to be seen and to be respected.
Yeah.
And that we are all here living together. And ultimately, we all want and again, I say in the show that I started doing, it's what I have come to discover, and I want to discover more. Again, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
There are more similarities than there are differences.
By far.
And at the same time to revel in and embrace our differences, because that is how we also learn.
Well, I love all the concepts where if you could put 10 people in a room and you put someone on the outside and each person has their voice altered, you can't see the color of their skin, you don't know their gender,
sure,
you don't know their social cultural backgrounds, you don't know what affiliations they have, and they simply tell you their life experience.
Yes.
Is the individual on the other side gonna be able to deter, that person's a black woman from inner city south side Chicago.
Yes.
That is a black man from or a white gay guy from Los Angeles. And the reality is, the core attributes within the human condition that unite us unite across all boards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is, that is always what has bothered me, upset me, or, whatever it is, when people just want to say, he's a gay guy, or you're a fag, or whatever it is, or you're you're a recovering alcoholic, or it's these labels that get stuck on us. Yes, there's part of our story for sure. And they help shape us and influence us, and that is how we walk through life. But isn't all of us? And again, that is what makes us up. Ultimately, though, we are all human. We are all God's children. We are all, we are all put on this path. And these are the attributes that we have been given, layered into our lives. Mm-hmm. And so we're moving along. We're all, I was saying to John earlier, no one gets out of bed in the morning and says, I just want to be average today.
Interesting.
Who does that? No one.
I don't. I think people get out of bed and they go, I don't want to be pressured today. I don't want to feel pain today.
Sure. But again, no one, and you guys,
no one wants to be minimized.
No.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just show up in your life listen, some people are just trying to get through, but that's you doing the best that you can today.
Yeah.
But no one wants I don't want to just be an okay parent. No, I want to be a great parent.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an okay friend, an okay lover, an okay worker, or whatever it is. No, I want to do well in my job.
I want to have meaning.
I want to have meaning. And so it's the same way in existence. You show up every day in your life. Again, we do the best that we can do with what we have. Excuse me. When we know better, hopefully we do better.
Yeah.
So
and I think one of the greatest things, or both great and challenging, is that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to get to that exploration process to where you're like, okay, this is becoming my purpose in life, right? And so as you look now at your growth and everything that you've gone through and all the different changes and now, I mean, you're Mr. Rutherford, right? You're in love with this incredible man who's wonderfully successful and supportive, and James, you have this, very interesting, very energetic lifestyle of moving towards new identities and new things and growth. What would you say your purpose in life now is?
Well, that's a big statement. Because I think it can shift every day.
Yeah, man.
With what you're faced with.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and the reason I asked you that, because you had said people wake up in the morning and they say, I want to be a great dad.
Sure.
I want to be a great friend. I want to be great at what I do. Right. And in the context of that ability is to have some clarity in who you are, what you mean to yourself and others, and then what your purpose is.
I think what's driving me into, we'll say, this new chapter, new year, however you want to look at it, which is every day, is to push myself forward, to not be comfortable in the old, because that to me is a place of being I don't want to just sit in the status quo. I don't want to just kind of do the same thing over again, because what has become more important to me, what has awakened in me, again, it's whether it's a calling or how I look at the situation that I'm in the sense of taking responsibility or acting even more as a leader and showing up more. It's pushing forward every day. It's, again, some days are better than others, for sure. But it's the fact that I want to do more, the fact that I do want to be a voice for other people that don't have their voices heard, that don't see them, that are still oppressed, that need some support, whether it is a mother in the South, whether it's a guy who has a background and he feels lost in this world, and listen, I still have guys that reach out to me that they want help getting dressed. They don't know how, because they've been viewed that if you care about how you look or how you dress, you're looked as effeminate or weak or whatever. And that has been a huge shift, certainly the last few years, but it's still prevalent, So it's me pushing forward. It's me creating content. It's me doing a show. It's me pushing myself out of my own comfort zone.
Yeah. Because
again, that's the awareness that I have right now about myself. That is, I want to do more. I want to participate more. Is
that because you're finally comfortable in your skin?
Listen, I'm more comfortable. There's still some days, and I'll be completely, as I always am, there's still some days that I think I'm a piece of shit.
Wow.
That there's a level of self-loathing that I'll spin. Listen, the deep dive, the darkness, we'll say, doesn't last days the way that it used to.
Years, man, sometimes.
Well, listen, for me, it's like even when I was using and then you stop using and then you're still left with the feelings, and so you find other ways to numb them, suppress them, hide from them, run from them.
Yeah.
There's still days that happens. Again, it's you're human. Those feelings in ourselves never go away. It's how you manage them and how you deal with them and how the type of effect that they have in your life. Or the type of the energy that you give them. And so again, yes, my tools are much stronger than they used to be. But But again, that's why I say it's every day, it's a new day, you know, and it's you showing up and it's using all the experience that you have, the awareness that you have. And sometimes that doesn't work. And so then you have to reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, reach out studies, you know, it's, I meditate. I try to meditate every day. I do TM meditation and it's sometimes that's the tool that helps me. But you have to keep pushing forward, you know, or for me, that is what I have been given. I have been given an opportunity in this platform and this time in life, this time, you know, we're going into 2020 and you know, maybe this will come out in 2020 and
oh, this is the New Year's special.
There you go, the New Year's special.
This is the New Year's special. So,
you know, we talk about resolutions, right? You know, and every day you can have a resolution. Every day you can have an awakening. Every day, it doesn't have to be New Year's Eve. It doesn't have to be your birthday. It doesn't have to be when you're getting married. It doesn't have to be whatever it is. You can literally wake up. You can be in traffic. You could be at church. You could be wherever. And I'm just giving myself chills. It's like, it can happen if you're aware of it. It can happen if you're open to it. It can happen. And again, there's been so many times opportunities come to you. You're not ready to see them. You haven't learned them yet. You know, whether it's in your relationship and you still need to go through a process until it ends, whether it's in a job, whether it's in an addiction, whatever it is. I have a friend right now. He's struggling. He's struggling to stay sober, struggling to stay clean. And he knows it's killing him. He knows it. Wow. And it's experiencing, and he's being told that. He still doesn't quite get it. But that's his experience. So you show up and help others as much as you help yourself. You know, and it's so for me going into this new year, it's pushing through. It's also, you know, it's kindness goes a long way.
Hell yeah, it does.
And it is something that I have to practice constantly towards myself and towards others. And many times, as you know, as many people know, it's easier to be kind to others than it is to yourself. And again, people have always viewed me as like, you're such a nice guy and you're such and nice guys finish last or whatever. To me, that's bullshit. There's a power in being nice. There's a power in being kind. There is a power. And it gets me emotional thinking about it because I'm such a firm believer that like we can change someone's life just by being kind, you know, and so often we forget that. So often that we think we need to dominate someone. We think we need to be better than. We think we need to win. We think we need to vanquish. We think we need to put down. We think we need to be the one that comes out on top. And I will swear by this. You will find success by lifting others up. And, you know, going into this, you know, you talk about what is this new, why, what do I feel? What do I, you know, if I am finding my greater sense of self by helping others, then so be it. And if out of that, I find more success or I find more success, personal success within myself, then that is what I am being shown, you know? And again, there are still dark days. I will never tell anyone that is listening or that follows me or that asks for advice. I will never tell anybody that it goes away, but I will tell you that it does get better. And it gets better because of my experience. And I will swear by that. And every day, you know, we gather the tools and we gather those around you. And I will say to people that are listening, surround yourself with people that support that about you. There is no reason to continue to pull people around you that either want to keep you the same or keep you down. That is not serving you and it is not serving anybody else. You know, because for me, one of the greatest challenges and that we go through is when we begin to change. You know, you find that change and, you know, your life begin to shift. Well, you change, but the people around you are forced to change as well. And some people don't deal well with change. Mm-hmm. And they want to stop you from changing. They want to stop you from evolving. They want to stop you from seeing someone who looks differently than you do and you seeing them for who they are. And they're like, well, why would you do that? Why would you support someone that doesn't believe in what we believe, or that doesn't look the way that we look? And so they begin to then want you to stop, or want to oppress you, or want to shove you down or stop you, when all you're trying to do is be your best self, and to be loving, and to be successful, and however that looks, and to put forth kindness. I'm not a fool. I don't pretend there are people out there that won't happen in my lifetime, and that don't want me or others like me or like you want to find success or whatever, just because it's so ingrained in them. But that doesn't mean that we, you, I, everyone listening should stop.
Yeah.
Push forward. And that, to me, again, there's a part of where I'm going to, it's scary, but why stop? You begin to have a level of an awareness, and you fight for something, you show up for something. You show up to be your best self. Again, I know it can be a very Oprah phrase or bumper sticker phrase or whatever it is, but to me it rings true. If we are here, we are presented here as these souls to evolve. We are presented here to go on this journey, to carry a message, to engage with those around us and with ourselves, to learn something. And at a certain point, then that journey is over. So while you are here, while you are present, while you're alive, why not experience it fully? Why not be as open and as powerful and as expansive as you possibly can? I should say, this is my experience and this is my opinion. I had, when this shift in my life a few years ago began to happen, I had friends say that you're throwing your life away. You are fucking up your life. Why are you going on this new journey? Why are you starting this new chapter? Why would you end a relationship? Why would you sell a house? Why would you do all of these things? And at a certain time, it felt like it took the rug out from underneath me. I felt like I was getting punched in the gut, because you want the people around you, you want your friends around you to support you and your family and everything.
To validate our decisions, yeah.
See them. You may not believe in them, but see them. Because again, and what ended up happening is this one person in particular said this to me, and again, you make a shift like this, people are uncomfortable with the truth, because they haven't found their own.
Amen.
And so they say things. And this person ended up saying to me, and it's because I had to defend the choices that I was making. And what they ended up saying was, and I was able to hear it, was because it scared the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It made them uncomfortable. My choices was making them uncomfortable. And they ended up saying, listen, I applaud you for doing it. I couldn't do it.
And so you did.
So it did. And today today looks very different than it looked like 5 years ago.
Amen for those changes.
And bless that, right?
Bless those. Well, listen, man, I look up there, and, I not only do I see a happy family, but I see a lot of wisdom.
Well, thanks.
And with 4 daughters, being able to talk about you and what you represent and what you are, not only as your brother, is powerful for me, but most importantly for me. Like I said before earlier, I'm this 8-year-old kid who, you're my hero, and
sure.
And then you were gone for a long period of time, and I think because of my divorce and the process, you had gone for it right before me, and us reconnecting in this moment to finally start seeing each other.
Sure.
And I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's what you're doing is significant, and trying to quantify things is always challenging in our lives, right? What is the level of impact that I can have? And I firmly believe the impact that you're having and will have is limitless, and it will certainly go on within their lives and in my life forever. And I just want to say I love you, buddy.
I love you too.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
It's been an honor and privilege. And I just want to say I'm so proud of what you are doing and what you've done. That I have certainly taken, as those of you listening, what you've shared and what you've gone through, and the work that you've put into this, into both your life, into these conversations, into your relationships, into your children, into giving back. You're such a good man, and one with a good heart, and I respect and appreciate what you're doing and where you're going. So it's a thrill to be a part of the journey.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before we get off, where can people find your new show?
Oh, well, okay. So far right now, it's called The Push with Eric Rutherford, and it's really about pushing forward and how we push ourselves and push those around us and push the conversation. So, I've only just put up the first, we'll say, talk. And it's on YouTube, and it's on all platforms that I'm on. So, and it's just under The Push with Eric Rutherford.
And The Push with Eric Rutherford. And then
also, Mr. Rutherford on Instagram.
And Mr. Rutherford on Instagram. And then also, if companies or people want to hire you or get in touch with you for speaking engagements or coaching or training or whatever.
They can go to me, or they can go to...
excuse me.
Yeah, they can direct message me, and I can connect you, or they can reach out to IMG in New York.
Awesome.
Yeah. Or WME in Los Angeles.
Well, I'll tell you what, certainly, our family team is going to be watching what happens in 2020. I think it's going to be a big year for both you and I
think so too.
And then I'm certain, a lot of people that have heard you from my side are going to be paying attention. So
listen, I hope so. The audience that you have, listen, I have such a respect for everyone who has taken it upon themselves, found their patriotism, believe in America. Again, this is, and I love being able to have that conversation with people, and that's part of the reason what I'm doing is, again, it's taken from inspiration from you, and is that we do live in one of the greatest countries in the world, and it is united, and it is about, we all have come from someplace else. Majority of us, right? Mm-hmm. And we all have the opportunity to live here and to find a freedom and express ourselves. And to me, that is one of the most beautiful things.
Freedom of speech, baby.
And freedom of speech, freedom of life, freedom to love, freedom to vote, freedom to, again, everything. I think I know there are more similarities than there are differences, and our differences are beautiful.
Yeah.
They
really are.
They really are. So that, to me,
the mosaic of our culture.
That's it. It's such a mosaic. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And again, I so appreciate anybody who's listening and listens to this with an open mind and know that even though sometimes it may not feel like it, we'll say, quote unquote, from the other side.
Yeah.
And again, not saying that I'm from the other side, but a
different perspective.
A different perspective. There it is. That we are so much more similar than we are different.
Amen.
So anyway, thank you. I love you.
I love you. Bye.